Okay, so as agreed, Kerianne, this part of the session is now being recorded, and we are going to use this recording to map in as a professional discussion for the data analysis assignment. If you're happy to move forward with that.
Yeah.
Okay, amazing. So let's just start off. And the first question we're going to address is discuss a report that you create that supports decision making within the business. So are there any reports or audits or anything like that that you deal with, like weekly or monthly, Kerianne, at all?
Since I saw report, racking at my brain. I mean, I help prepare for our audits, but I don't create reports.
Okay, so what goes into the audit?
So we basically just have someone from another site, or we self-evaluate everything that's at site. So that's all our documentation, making sure it's all up to date, making sure all our health and safety is up to date, all our PPE checks been completed, all course checks been completed, and it's all logged correctly. So it's just to ensure we're up to date with everything, but no kind of physical report that I create. GoApe has made it very easy for us. We have a Monday board and we just sign everything off.
So the purpose of the audit is it says standardization checks. So making sure everything is exactly how it should be.
Yeah.
A standardization check to ensure that operations are as they should be. Okay, so as a result of that audit, so what happens after the audit? Let's say hypothetically something's been flagged that you need to address straight away. How would you then deal with that?
That gets put as like a comment, as like an action point for that site that needs to be completed, whether they consider it an immediate, this needs to happen immediately, or whether you've kind of got time to fix those issues. And then you just get on and process anything that you need to do.
With urgency levels appointed. Action points are then created with urgency levels. Appointed is the wrong word, isn't it? Urgency levels assigned. So we can then create a plan to address them, i.e.
So if like training logs haven't been filled out, but the training has taken place, we need to figure out who did that training and when, and kind of complete the log, make sure it has a correct reflection of the instructor's progress.
Excellent. Okay, you can just repeat that example for me, Kerianne, if possible. So for example, was it a training log?
Yeah, so if a training log isn't up to date, we need to make sure what training has taken place and whether it's been logged correctly, and if not, making sure we're updating the information.
Information to reflect to be reflective of affluent operations. Okay, so I guess what we could say is that as a result of completing the audit, a report of sorts then gets created. In that the report will contain action points to address.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I wouldn't that's me.
I know this is getting. I know it's getting slightly creative with it, but
yeah.
Come what we need to explain, it will be sufficient enough to reflect in our current operations. So in terms of supporting decision making with regard, in fact we don't need to put that because that's the question at the end. Discuss a report that you create that suggests decision making of the business. The back of the audit. Kerianne, how is the audit conducted? Is it done digitally, like on iPad, where it's like tick box and so to prove that things that are done, or is it done old school pen and paper?
Are you familiar with Monday.com?
Monday.com. I'm not.
Yeah, it's basically a online site. And yeah, it's basically tick boxes. So you fill in kind of each box of who's done it, if they have any comments on every single section. So it breaks down what they have to look at individually, so nothing kind of gets missed. And they sign it off when it's done.
Online site whereby a tick box system is implemented to illustrate whether task or area has met sufficient compliance. We can then add comments to the specific needs and requirements moving forward, i.e. like training requirements, for example, as you said. So if you find that one area hasn't or isn't sufficient or compliant with kind of company regulation or policy, then you can find out, what's the reason why it's not up to date. Do we need to apply more training? Is it a specific member of staff, or is this kind of typical for across the team? In which point it allows you to make more informed decisions. So if you want to do monthly training, for example, it allows you to then maybe think if there's 3 or 4 people across the team that require the same training, you might make that the training need for that month. Or if it's just one individual, then you could liaise with them to make sure they got the sufficient support and training that they needed. Whether that be you showing them what to do, if they were a kinesthetic learner, for example, or if they learn better through kind of reading, then you could make them read the manual or the handbook or whatever it was that explains what it is that they're supposed to be doing.
Mm-hmm.
Moving forward, i.e. training needs can be addressed with resources allocated as a result, so we can tailor our response as per the needs of the business or staff. Okay, there we go. Good answer. Next. So we've kind of touched upon this already. So how do you use the data, collect it, manage it, and analyze it to create the report? So let's break that down. Collection, management analysis. Okay, so you mentioned it. So it's somebody going around. Is it one person or is it a team of people that conduct this audit, Kerianne?
So it's one person, and at different times of the year, it's different people. So they're getting like a different eye on everything. So it's not the same person over and over.
So I guess the benefit of one person doing it is that all the standards are going to be the same, I guess, rather than if you get a team of like 5 different people doing it, then one person's understanding or kind of standards might be different to another person's standards, and it might throw out the accuracy of the report.
Yeah, so different people audit different sites. So at the moment, our audit that's coming up, it's other site managers that have to audit each other for this one. So it's people of the same level go into another site and go in, are you running your site?
Okay. Oh, okay.
Correct.
So in theory, it shouldn't matter who does it.
No, because it
it's
is really broken down into
okay.
very small kind of sections to then tick off. So yeah, hopefully it should all be done to the same standard.
Implemented. Kerianne, just remind me what the site's called. Was it Monday?
Monday.com.
Monday.com.
Site, yeah.
Developed. Spell. So after this report's done, Kerianne, so on the back of the audit, who decides what's going to happen?
So you just have a look at the results of your audit. Yeah. If there's anything that's a major red flag, it will then be followed through by the specific head of that department. So if it's a serious health and safety concern that they've come across, it will have to go to the head of our health and safety, and not just something for you to kind of fix. So a lot of things might be just for you to update, and it's not too bad. But yeah, if it needs to be analysed by other departments, then it can be.
Okay, so this would go to the HOD relevant. And you would follow up on that to make sure that it's been addressed and something.
Yeah.
With solved issue materials with that head of department ensure it's into place. Okay, cool. Has it collected, managed, and this is done monthly?
It's done So it's done at the beginning of the year. Four times a year, quarterly.
Okay, cool.
Maybe 5 times. Yeah, it's not always in like the same chunks, like 3 months later, just based on our
This is
like
done quarterly. Training, updates, I guess any maintenance that's required, stuff like that, Kerianne, as well, potentially.
Yeah. Training, updates, maintenance. Just all our like what we call our PPE records. So that's like our personal protective equipment. So that's like a major one to make sure they're all up to date.
Yeah, good old PPE.
Yeah.
Before, so I've been doing this job for about 18 months. Kerianne, before that, I was like a general manager, like running like health clubs and gyms and stuff. So all of that PPE, risk assessment,
Yeah.
COSH, manual handling. Yeah, great times. Maintenance. Yeah, so I guess it also allows you to review of policy and processes as well. So I guess a lot of your policies and processes are governed around kind of industry regulations.
Yeah.
And review of policy whereby you can look at the compliance with industry regulations and legislation. Because I guess there'll be certain things that are industry based that you have to abide by. And then there'll be kind of like generic laws like GDPR and things like that everybody has to. But you can review a review of policies process whereby we can look at their compliance with industry regulations and legislation to ensure we are operating. I can't type. Operating with best practice. Okay, cool. Okay. Okay, next question, or next two questions, Kerianne, is this. Give an example of qualitative data or give an example of quantitative data. So I guess my first question is, what's your understanding of those two terms?
It should be a lot more than it is because I did statistics at,
Okay.
you know, but quantitative is obviously like numbers, isn't it?
That's it.
And
so did you do like SPSS and things like that?
No, that doesn't ring a bell.
Okay. Unfortunately,
I wasn't a fan of the statistics side of things.
I'm showing my age, Kerry. So I did SPSS for managing raw data and things like that in university, but that was a very long time ago.
No, I just did it A level, so probably a little bit more basic.
Okay, so you're absolutely right. So in terms of qualitative data compared to quantitative data, So quantitative is, as you said, it's numbers, it's figures, it's kind of raw data. It's just numbers and figures on its own. It's a set of data, it's raw data that needs to be given context in order for it to become applicable to something. So this type of data is raw data, often just numbers that need to be given context. So for an example, do you have a system on site that monitors the number of people that check in every day?
Yes. So I was going to say, like, it sometimes gets given context for us. So we've got this lovely thing, and this lovely lady in IT who puts everyone's numbers together, and we have a thing called performance data, and we can look at our gross margins, we can look at our visitor numbers weekly, and we can look at them yearly. We can compare them to the last 3 years. We can compare them to our targets. So quite often we do look at quantitative data to check to see how we're doing.
Okay, amazing. Target comparison. Okay, so that would kind of be a quite a good example. So if you've got a system in place which will tell you how many people have entered the park or the site in a day. Now that might be 500, for example. Now to someone like me, I don't know whether that's busy or whether that's quiet. It doesn't.
Yeah.
As it purely as a number, it doesn't mean anything to me. However, that would mean something to you, because you're going to be able to put that into context. Oh, that means it's been a busy day, or that means that it's been a quiet day, and then you can put it into context further. Oh, it was a busy day for a Saturday, or a Monday, or it was busier than last Monday, or whatever it might be. And so you can always use this data to look at, and it's really useful to have as performance data because it allows you to plan and react. So for things like rotas, for example, typically if the number of people that come through the park and you need to have a certain number of people, like staff per visitor, then it will give you an idea of how many staff you're going to need to put on shift. And if Saturdays are a lot busier than Thursdays, for example, you can react to that by planning a more accurate rota, for example. So it's really useful for improved quality and efficiency, which we'll come on to as it's the next question. So quantitative data, so raw data that needs to be given context. So we can say an example of this is system that monitors entry numbers into or do you call it the park, Kerianne, or the site, or
just a site? Yeah.
It's the site. Okay, so qualitative data, as you said, so let's use our hypothetical example. So the raw data tells us that 500 people have come onto site on a given day. Now, qualitative data will be able to break that down. So how many males, how many females, how many people over the age of 30, how many people under the age of 18, for example, all of this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So you can use it not just for rotoring, but you can use it for like marketing purposes. You can use it to create marketing strategy. What's our target audience going to be? You might want to run like if you find that you're not going to get many people or a certain demographic of people in during the week at certain times, you could run a promotion to try and increase revenue and footfall and things like that. So it can also be used for all of this kind of thing as well. Give an example of qualitative data, performance data, visitor numbers weekly, target comparisons, breakdown of the numbers, giving us information on specific demographics. So we in on what days, at what times, performance data. And you say this is that performance data is put together by someone in IT.
Yeah, magical Maria.
Magical Maria.
Yeah, she gets all most of the data, and yeah, we can find out our like retail spend per head.
Okay.
And we can do that on any time range, any date range that we need to. So if we want to know how well we did on sales during the half term, we can be like, oh yeah, we sold loads of gloves. And then other weeks are like, oh, that one was poor. What was the weather like?
All of this data analysis is really, really key. Not only for analysis, but for future planning as well, which I'm sure you guys use it for. So as you just said, you sold loads of gloves at half term, then guess what? The next time it's half term, you're going to make sure you have loads of stock of gloves in. And this is the kind of thing that you can talk about, Kerianne, as well, when it comes to your presentation. So where we've given quite specific answers here, you can go in, you can expand on those answers and explain and give practical examples of the kind of thing that we're talking about. That's what the invigilators are going to love, because ultimately they're not going to want to they're not going to know what you do as a job role and what it entails. All they're interested in is can you demonstrate knowledge, skills and behaviours against the criteria. And the more practical examples you can give of the application of this stuff and how you use it, the better.
Yeah.
So all of that, I can't type fast enough, unfortunately, because that was a really good answer. But again, what I'll do after this, Karen, is I'll play the recording back, and anything that I'll miss, I'll fill it in. Okay, so the last question is, give an example of how your analysis and management of either qualitative or quantitative data has led or will lead to improved quality, efficiency, or productivity within your organization. So it's basically the example that we've just given.
Yeah, so precisely we've just finished our February half term. We got asked to analyse all our figures, our gross margin, our labour, our revenue, our glove sales, because they're pushing that, and comment on it. So loads of people said, I gave my staff cabin training, so we sold loads of gloves. So other sites are now thinking, okay, so to improve our sales, maybe I need to give my staff training.
Yeah. Brilliant. Yeah, that's exactly it. So you can use it in a really proactive way, and it can shape your operations in terms of the kind of training that's required. Again, the kind of promotions that you could put, marketing strategy, all of this kind of stuff. Marketing strategy. Sales. Let's use the glove sales as the example. That's a good one. Precisely analyze the figures, gross margin, sales and revenue. So on the back of, I guess February half term, what was a couple of weeks ago?
Yeah, kind of.
Back of February half term, we analysed quantitative data and performance data, and you were asked to give feedback on this and come up with ideas.
Yeah, I think it was more to like comment of like maybe why you were down on your revenue. So we were down on our revenue, but we were also down on our labour. So actually our gross margin was higher than what it was supposed to be. But so yeah, the gross margin kind of showed that we were actually doing well against our revenue. But maybe our performance could have been better if we had more staff. But...
Yeah, I agree with that. We're kind of in the same boat, Kerianne, as well.
Yeah. Very, very short staffed over that period. So we did well out of it, but could have done better.
That's what your managers will tell you, right? We can always do better.
Yeah, well, I can't complain because I left during the recruitment process and the training time, and that's usually my January job.
Chris Martin told us that we were down. So you were down on revenue?
We're down on
your
revenue against target, but we were actually up on gross margin.
Against target, but
which kind of showed that although we weren't as profitable as we could have been, we were still being efficient with the resources that we had.
So what was the feedback that you gave to managers on this? So this demonstrates to us that if we have more staff, we were able to operate at a higher level and increase revenue.
Yeah, so I think, yeah, their argument would be we should have had more staff in place. But this was I think a little bit of a trial. This is the first time that we've had to like give exact feedback on all our data. So I think it'll be interesting to see what they bring of it. They haven't shared that with us. But
Okay.
I think they want to know that everyone knows where to find that information. And that was their way of making sure everyone knows where to get the information from.
Yeah, okay.
As well as a bit of a test.
Marketing strategy. Sales techniques. Okay. Well, I guess the aims and objectives could more or less stay the same: to offer great service, to always hit target, but the tactics of how you might go about that might kind of be cultivated the more you learn.
Yeah, so I was reading a lot of other people's comments as well, and they were like, we opened for an additional week when we don't usually, and we actually found there was a lot of people like still on holiday and they hadn't like looked at that before, so now they can compare that to last year. and see whether it's actually worth opening. And we've got the trick of trying to juggle like Welsh half terms and English half terms.
Yeah, of course.
We're always split across 2 weeks, but getting those 2 weeks correct is usually quite difficult. So yeah, us looking back on our data always helps, but we tend to judge it by the school holidays, and we research school holidays at the beginning of the year to let us know what our staffing should be.
External factors like, so you might have done this. Have you done PESEL before, like external factors affecting the business? You might have done it in project management or culture and strategy.
Yeah, that's the last one's like environment, legal.
That's the one. So we can include that in our answer as well, because the invigilators love that. Having training on sales equals higher sales on gloves. Also found that focus on and sales of certain improved. Therefore, this is a tactic we can use. Okay, excellent. That's a good answer. Analysis of GDPR, don't need that. Right, that is data analysis assignment completed, Kerianne. So are you happy with all of that, of what we've gone through there?
Yeah.
And as I say, I think with the benefit of for us is we're going to be able to use this recording as well against that evidence. So I'm just actually going to pause that recording there.